Welcome to the Rugby League Outsiders Set of Six, our weekly news show where we share the good, the great and the noteworthy of Rugby League outside the heartlands. My name's Craig.
And my name's Karl. There were a big meeting in Batley. The NRL are looking at purchasing a stake in Super League. And this week, I'm going to give you my England team for the Ashes based on current form.
Right, Karl, really excited about the news this week. Loads going on. Just such a pivotal time in rugby league right now with the NRL looking at buying a stake, all the other bits of infighting within the clubs.
Yep.
And also Nigel Wood doing his interim, strategic review of the game. So it should be a good week this week.
Yeah, back of a cigarette packet or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, there's loads going on. We did miss a show last week, so we were diving into a little bit of last week's news as well as this week's news. But yeah, loads for us to get our teeth stuck into this week.
All right, first question. What do you know about Bedford?
Very little, mate. Yeah, not a lot.
Well, here's two interesting things, right? Massive news. First one, Universal Studios announced they're going to build their theme park there, which is huge, isn't it? I know you love Universal Studios.
I love it, yeah. Harry Potter World, I hope that's there.
Yeah,
get
okay.
Stuck into that.
The second bit of news is that Bedford Tigers, huge aspirations, big game coming up for them, Karl.
Yeah, Bedford Tigers, our top story this week, Craig. Bedford Tigers, in 2 weeks' time, are going to be playing at the home of Championship Rugby Union side Bedford Blues in their second game of the SCL season, and it promises to be absolutely massive. There's loads going on with the club at the minute.
Yeah, we're going to be there. We're going to be doing our outsiders view of the game the whole day and catch up with some of the players and fans as well. Why is this important in terms like Bedford Tigers, Karl, and their aspirations?
We all know that Bedford Tigers put in a bid to enter League One, didn't they, last year? And we know there's a spot wide open at the minute. Cornwall have folded essentially, so there's that license sort of hanging in the balance. So there's going to be a lot of teams wanting to make a push for professional rugby next year, but I think Bedford are the one who are really going to go for it. So they've linked up with Bedford Blues, the championship side there. They're going to be playing at their home ground, Goldington Road. Lovely little stadium. It promises to be, tickets are already selling really well. It promises to be Bedford's biggest ever game. I've spoke to a load of people on the ground. They're going to have the wheelchair team there. They've got a netball side at Bedford. They've got the vets team turning up. The sponsors are getting stuck into it. And the Rugby Union Club are really, really helping to push this fixture.
And this is massive for us based in the Midlands as well, because obviously it's a Midlands-based club, all right? They've got aspirations of playing in the Pro League.
Yeah.
And narrowly missed out. Obviously Gould have gone on, done some great things already in the professional leagues. And Bedford look like they're going to kind of follow suit. And this will be a massive show of force, if you like, shot across the bow in terms of showing the RFL the catchment they can have in that area, the interest there is in Bedford, how they can put on a match day experience. So no doubt this is very strategic as well as, creating something for the fans and players.
Yeah, it's all just bubbling away at the minute. I think after last season, I think Bedford have decided we're taking a different approach now and we really want to push this club to be a professional outfit. And everything they're doing is aiming to be professional rugby league ready within the next year or so. And it's probably worth mentioning, we've already got one side now in the Midlands playing League One footy, in the Midlands Hurricanes. Wouldn't it be great to have another side in that mix? Almost like a bit of, I know Midlands is a massive area, isn't it? But it'd be great to have a bit of a rivalry going on there. That's even if Hurricanes are in League One next year. At the minute, the top of the table, aren't they? So they could well be in the Championship. However, we don't even know the structure of the leagues in the next year or two. They're obviously going to change. But yeah, I'm excited for people at Bedford. I spoke to Rob Ashton, who's the chairman there. He's working incredibly hard. Sponsors are coming on board. There's some top players turning up to play there. Just promises to be massive. Really looking forward to getting down there and taking in the match day experience.
Yeah, I've did a bit of digging about the clubhouse and all that kind of stuff. Newly renovated, new created, the Borough. Have you seen that? The Borough. Yeah, so it's like a bit of a marquee decking area, right? Looks really snazzy. So I can't wait to get amongst that. Obviously, we're going to be doing an outside view of the whole day. The event is taking place at Goldington Road, April the 26th. Kick-off at 3 p.m. And ticket price is pretty good as well. Kids can get in for just £1. Which is brilliant,
bargain.
and then adults are a £5 to get in there. So if you are in the area or nearby, go and support some Midlands-based rugby league. Go and support Bedford Tigers because they have got huge aspirations.
Yeah, and it should be a good game as well. I mean, they're playing the Eastern Rhinos, who beat London Chargers 16 points to 8 in the first game of the season. They did lose to the West Warriors quite heavily, but it's just setting up for a great fixture. And I know the club want to put a special thank you out to Bedford Blues, who are really helping to push this fixture. I mean, we haven't really had rugby union teams that really push a rugby league fixture like this before. Certainly not a championship rugby union club pushing what's essentially still an amateur club at this moment in time. So I think everybody at Bedford, really want to thank Bedford Blues for helping push it. Tickets are available through Bedford Blues as well, through their ticket office. So it's just a great collaboration, and I'm sure they want to see it prosper in the next couple of years. Yeah,
so thanks to that union side. Doesn't happen often, and it's good and deserves a bit of recognition when it does. Moving on, obviously we're going to do this outsider's view of the whole day. Now, to make sure you don't miss that, make sure you hit subscribe for when that video drops. Right, okay. Real good, positive, feel-good story there from Bedford Tigers. Moving on now, and I'm not sure which side of the fence I sit on with this, okay? So the NRL reported that they have an interest in purchasing a slice of the Super League.
Yeah, so this is a story that's kind of been getting leaked here, there and everywhere since Vegas, actually. There was definitely a meeting took place at Vegas with Peter Vlandis, the whole crew. I think Simon Moran was involved from Warrington. It looks like, I mean, they have come out and said it, haven't they now? The NRL looking to purchase a stake in Super League. They want a 33% stake in Super League, but they also want control of the Super League. So I think, and this is last week's news essentially, but we haven't really discussed it. So over to you. What's your thought on this?
Well, the key word that you missed out your little intro there was full administrative control.
Yeah.
Now, that's what excites me because I think we can all be honest and just sort of look back over the last probably decade and sort of think, right, what's been going on administratively? And it's a nightmare because I struggle to say that word. But and it has been lacking at all levels, you know what I mean? And Super League being the pinnacle of our sport in this country, if we can have someone who's tried and tested, Peter Vlandis, incredible job, very, very well respected as probably one of the best in the business, then that's got to be a good thing. And ultimately, we want our sport to survive and to thrive, and it's going to take some strong administration for that to happen. So the fact that they want administrative control, I'm not worried about that. I know lots of people are worried about, is it going to dilute the competition? Is it going to change it? Some clubs, they're talking about this 10-game league, which you're going to come on to in a minute, no doubt, and some people are going to miss out, and other people are going to be included, and there's a whole load of stuff to sort out. However, this is where rugby league struggles, I think, in my opinion. We're very traditionalists. Oh, we should do the game's going soft and all this. Very traditionalist.
Yeah.
And that, I think, has held us back.
Oh, 100% it's held us back.
We've got to modernise the game and something's got to change, and you can't create an omelette without cracking a few eggs. So I'm excited. I know some people are going to be disappointed and worried and kicking off, but, I think, personally, I think it's a good move. You?
Do you know what I think? I think it'll never get over the line.
Wow, well, that's a strong statement.
I honestly think it'll never get over the line. And the reason I don't think it'll get over the line is because I think there are too many clubs have self-interest at heart in rugby league. And I think that's been our problem for a number of years. You just touched on it. I think if the NRL want a 10-team Super League, right, some teams I ain't going to make this cut, right? So they're not going to vote for it.
But that's assuming they do want a 10-team league.
Well, this is what's been reported. I mean, we're going on a little bit of hearsay, aren't we? Here? But this has been reported across multiple media networks, including Fox in Australia. So I don't. I would love for it to happen, and whether the team I support make the cut or not, I mean, I'm not fussed about that, as long as it's not. Super League doesn't remain a closed shop forever and a day after a new Super League, let's call it Super League Europe, comes in. But I hope there is a plan for the rest of Rugby League, and it's not solely focused on Super League.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not what they're talking about, is it? They're talking about taking control of Super League. Now, you could argue that perhaps there will be some trickle-down benefits, but if you look at like trickle-down economics, that doesn't really work. You know what I mean? When they start adding extra money to the economy, they go, right, give it to all the rich people because it'll trickle down, and it doesn't. They just hold on to it and get richer.
Yeah.
You need trickle up economics. You know what I mean? To improve. We're getting political here.
Trickle up.
Yeah, it needs to.
I know what you mean. You can't trickle up, but
ooze up or whatever the word is. You know, and you're right. You know. There's problems at the grassroots, there's problems at the medium levels and the lower professional leagues as well. So, but you've got to think that if that is the pinnacle, you know, a shining light for young kids coming through that want to play a sport, how do we keep hold of them? How do we improve what's going on? We need a really strong Super League, and perhaps it's step one of a series of steps that improves the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of trying to give both sides the argument because I'm not 100% sure where I stand. I don't think we'll really know until we know more details. But, I mean, you've only got to look at what the NRL have done over the last few years. It's just exploded, hasn't it? The sport's just getting bigger and bigger profile in Australia. So, you know, I am all for the NRL coming in and taking some control. And we'll go on to a little bit what's been discussed. So they're looking at a 10-team Super League. This is what we believe to be true anyway. So
yeah, if we was to summarise the situation right now, as we know from the different reports and what have you, this is how it stands.
Right. So Saints, Wire, Wigan, Leeds, Hull KR, and Hull FC. They're the six that they definitely want in there. Then you've got Toulouse and Catalan are the other two that have been mentioned. Possibly London, because I think they're wanting to give it a bigger footprint. London, and so that it only leaves you one spot there for one other team. Where is that one other team coming from? Leigh, Cass, Wakefield. Look at all the success they're having at the minute. Huddersfield. Someone's going. Well, a few of those teams are going. So it's not without controversy, isn't this?
No, I know. And then if you zoom out, right, you take all emotion, all tradition out the window, and you zoom out and go, right, okay. Now, maybe in order to... Because what we're fundamentally saying is if there's a side that is perhaps weaker because of the standard of their facilities, their playing pool, finances, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a call there for perhaps, teams to merge to create a.
Yeah, I did think about that, actually.
Yeah.
You could merge some teams like Hull FC, Hull KR, you could merge them, couldn't you? That'd go down well.
You can't even merge the fans on the terraces, let alone the club. I mean, put that in the comments. What would we call it? You know what I mean? Obviously, there's a lot of Hull fans now just going nuts, right? A lot of Hull FC and KR fans just going crazy. I know there are. But, if you don't support either of those two teams, you know what I mean? What's your thoughts like? Just for shits and giggles, what would you call it? You know what I mean?
I wonder what Aussies think looking from the outside looking in.
But this is what I'm saying.
If they go, you've got two teams in that city.
Yeah. No, next to each other, like within a mile or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, perhaps you could say the same thing about like Wakey and Cass. You know what I mean?
Yeah, merge them, get them together as well.
Merge them.
Huddersfield as well.
Wakeford. You know what I mean? We call them Wakeford.
Calderdale, something or other. What else we got? Bradford and Leeds, yeah, merge them too. This is Craig and Karl's blueprint out of Kill Rugby League
No, I know a lot of these things have been tried.
I'm just joshing.
When you have like the Huddersfield, Sheffield, what do you call them when you like the
mergers?
Yeah, so that's pretty much how it stands at the minute. Now, what we again, when you're in the weeds of it, like some of these things hurt, don't they? You know what I mean? And it's like, it just feels like such a big radical change that it's hard to kind of get behind it. But
it's just typical rugby league, though, isn't it? It's like, right, we've got IMG, we'll have this like 5-year plan and give everybody a provisional grades to start off with, and then we'll bring it into play. And it's like, before it's even properly got going, it's like, right, yep, something else is coming in now. And that is just rugby league all over, innit? We just chop and change all the time. But I do think something needs to happen right at this moment in time.
And what though? Like something radical, or just a little bit more of what we've always done with a few minor changes? Like,
I think we go radical.
But this is what I'm saying, and this is why, like, some of these clubs may need to merge if they want to be in top flight, you know, the top flight league. We might have to lose a French side, or we might have to develop like a...
Might have to add French sides.
Yeah, well, and the London side, you know what I mean? Like, pool all our resources into London to create a really strong side down there. And this is what we've got to do. We've got to almost like take massive leaps of faith and leave our tradition in order to move the game forward.
And if you believe the right men are coming in to do the job, you kind of just got to let them get on with it and make the changes that they want to see happen, I think.
So it's exciting, but also very nerve-wracking times, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there'll be teams in Championship who got aspirations of making Super League in the next 12 months, and you know that may be taken away from them. But I think, I certainly like the idea of NRL Europe or Super League Europe. I mean, it's essentially Super League Europe now, isn't it? We haven't even touched on flipping Catalan Toulouse yet, because murmurings are there are meetings happening behind closed doors, and some clubs don't actually even want the French sides in the Super League. Steve McNamara keeps coming on camera and sort of making his case for Catalan, which just seems bonkers to me. Absolutely bonkers. I mean, Catalan are one of the shining lights of Super League. They've been given the time to develop where they haven't been up for relegation, and they've prospered. I mean, how could you kick Catalan out of the rugby league? It's absolutely mental, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think they've got to kind of design what they want the outlook to look, and then work back and sort of say, right, what are the obstacles? And then this is part of the administration again, isn't it? It's like, right, okay, so we need, let's say we assume and we agree that we need strong French side, at least one. But then we've got all these travel restrictions, broadcasting restrictions, all this kind of stuff. How do we make it work? You know, in the interest of the league, and that, I think that's the kind of stuff that Peter V'landys will bring. You know what I mean? I think he'll look at those obstacles. Right, how do we overcome that? Rather than no, we can't do that. Cut them. You know, just kick Catalan out because they
don't bring any away fans. That's one of the most stupid arguments I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Chairman saying stuff like that when they've got a stadium that's only got bloody 3,000 home fans in it.
Yeah, and then flip it around. You know, they get massive crowds at home. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, what do you want then? You know, if you measured them on using that as a yardstick, they're better than, you know, they do more than you. So, you know, maybe you should get kicked out of the freaking league. So, it's kind of a big mess there. Lots of speculation.
I'm sure it'll all be sorted out over pie and peas at Batley, though.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, obviously a bit of a loaded statement there, Karl. You sent me a screenshot of this release from Batley Bulldogs. Fill us in.
I thought it were a joke.
I genuinely thought we were getting trolled.
I thought it was a joke. I saw people screenshotting this about this meeting that took place at Batley, which was fine. And
that involved Nigel Wood, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was sort of the League One clubs and Championship clubs had got together to discuss how they're going to move the game forward. And then in the statement, it kind of basically said, we've all chipped together to buy a couple of light bulbs for the floodlights, and we've had delicious pie and peas cooked by whoever. And I was like, really? It's like, is this real? I genuinely thought it were a piss take. So I went on the website just to check it was real. It was real. This was a real statement that was put out by our clubs.
Not just a social post. You're calling it a statement.
It's on their website. It's like a press release. I was like, I can't believe I'm reading this. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry.
So are you in agreement with me? So right now there's a massive thirst for information. We know Nigel Wood has got his interim group together to do this strategic review. And what I took from it was the first bit of news that to come from that, that team being implemented was the fact that they enjoyed pie and peas and bought a floodlight at Batley. Is that what you took from it?
Yeah, that's all I took for it. Other than that, there was absolutely no need for that statement. They'd have been better not saying anything.
Well, that's a whole different story, isn't it? But so what was spoke about? Like strategically, what happened? We're having a strategic review of the pie and peas. I mean, we do that in our freaking videos, like test the food. We don't need Nigel Wood cracking that. You know what I mean? Albeit, I'm sure he likes a bit of pie and peas, but you know what I mean? Like give us some substance to the news. Like what happened? What were we talking about? Even if it's from Batley's point of view, you know what I mean? Just something.
I've nothing else to say on it. It was just tin pot. It was embarrassing.
So every week we pick out a couple of comments that we like to we call the viewers mailbag. Mailbag.
I thought you called it the ball bag.
No, it's you keep calling it the ball bag. I call it the mailbag. Sponsored by Urban Flux Studios here in Wolverhampton. So I picked out a couple of comments, Karl. I'd like to get your reaction. First one from John Payne, 5985. This is from a couple of weeks ago, but it's too good not to share. So basically, this is what he goes on to say. I used to find these two guys quite irritating, right? But now I'm really warm to them. Nice chemistry going on and plenty of straight talking honesty. None of the lovey-dovey, let's not upset anyone nonsense put out by some broadcasters, such as the BBC. Thanks for being refreshingly different, guys, and for championing the sport in the whole of the country, not just the north. So what do you take on that, Karl? He must have been talking about you in terms of that.
I think he must have been talking about you, mate.
Well,
I agree with him. They are quite irritating.
Yeah. The reason why I picked this out is because obviously what we turn out now is very different from when we first got started. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like our prediction video was a part of a live news show that we used to do, and I think like the way we come at this stuff has developed over the last couple of years of doing this podcast and doing this show, and we do pride ourselves on being perhaps a little bit honest without overly bashing the RFL, the clubs and all.
Yeah, I mean,
apart from Batley this week, but...
And we have merged Hull FC and Hull KR this week, so yeah, can't wait to see the comments this week. We'd say how we feel though. It's just our opinion is pretty much, I mean, we're not held by any broadcaster or anything, are we? So we can just basically put it down how we feel it is. Yeah,
and as with everything, you know, the saying is, feedback is the breakfast of champions, you know, and we do want to turn out good stuff. The fact that, you know, you started off and thought it was a bit irritating, but now, you know, things have changed and developed is good. It's good feedback. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is good feedback. But do you know what it is? When any of these comments, if you say something about somebody's team that they don't like, that week they don't like you, and I've noticed if you then say, "Oh, their team was brilliant this week."
No comment.
Yeah, you're doing well. So it's just you can't win sometimes.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Moving on then. This one is going to make your ears prick up. This is from MDJC Smith. Right. I don't know who that is. And it was on a comment on a video that we did about location for the Ashes venues. Right now we know where those Ashes are going to take. The Ashes series is going to take place now. However, this was a suggestion a couple of weeks ago. Do up Odsal and have a standing room test match with cheap tickets. Fill the terraces like the old days. Right, we've already said that, you know, very traditional in rugby league and all that kind of stuff. Odsal, your hometown stadium. Obviously, you know, people have been talking about doing up Odsal for years. Well, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I reckon we get the Superdome built as well. Wow, we're at it. That's a terrible idea.
Why?
Ashes at Odsal. No, sell cheap tickets. You don't need to sell cheap tickets for Ashes because they're absolutely flying out. We're going to sell out Wembley. We're going to sell out Everton, and we're going to sell. Headingley's already sold out, hasn't it?
You think we're going to sell out Wembley?
Yeah, I think we're going to sell out Wembley.
Christ. So I mean, this was 2 weeks ago before the tickets went on sale. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I can't ever imagine seeing a test match at Odsal.
What about this idea of like really cheap tickets, like the Primark of rugby league occasions?
It's terrible.
Like,
it's a terrible idea.
Why?
Because international rugby league is the pinnacle of our sport.
Yeah.
So you should never sell cheap
What if you get like 70,000 people watching, like the halcyon days of, that record?
Not 120,000.
Yeah. People hanging off lampposts and stuff.
Whatever it was. Not going to happen.
Why?
It's a ridiculous idea.
Why?
Mate,
I can't help but think there's something in this. Like, honestly, I'm just thinking
they'll need to make the pitch bigger for a start. It's not even to flipping
international standards.
Well, it's not even just championship standards, but that's another story. Could you imagine Australia and England walking out at Odsal across the dirt track? I just can't imagine it.
All right,
do you know what I used to love though? I was very young when the kangaroo tours used to happen. They used to play the club sides as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
So
the warm-up game.
Yeah, that was ace. I do actually remember. Pretty sure I remember watching Bradford versus Australia when I was very young. And great occasions. But you can't have the pinnacle of sport.
Do you think they'll do warm-up games this time?
No, I don't think they're doing them. I think they're
not playing in France the week before or something like that.
That was spoken about, and there's been no announcement. I think the players' union got involved.
Yeah,
and
a little bit of a sidetrack. So we went to Lee. We visited Lee to do our Outsiders in video of Lee, and we got talking to the kit man, didn't we?
Yes.
And
I forgot about this story.
Yeah. So we found this really interesting. Now because obviously links to Adrian Lamb, and Adrian Lamb was assistant coach to Mal Meninga, when during the World Cup, he was asked to be the kit man for the Aussie team, and I said, "Are you looking forward to it this year?" He goes, "Oh, I'm not doing it this year." And he's like, "Why not, mate? You know what I mean? As a kit man, surely this is like amazing." He goes, "Oh, it's too intense."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just like it was too full on. He said every like training session was like a test match in terms of like setting up the kit, the expectations of the players, and can you imagine that changing room?
No, I definitely couldn't imagine like Cherry Evans and Nathan Cleary in the changing rooms at Odsal. You know what I mean? just couldn't imagine it.
Well, they might like it. Going back to tradition, like the origins of the game and one of the founding clubs.
I remember once watching, when the World Club Challenge was like that massive event, and all the Aussie teams came over. I remember watching a game at Thrum Hall, and the Aussie team didn't even go back into the changing room at half time. They just stayed on the pitch. Anyway, the kit man, that was really interesting, wasn't it? And something I'd never really thought about. I just thought, surely Australia just bring their own kit man when they come over here. But it was quite a little interesting bit of news, that.
Right, some more interesting news then, Karl. Women's Challenge Cup results. Now, some blowout scores this week from the Women's Challenge Cup. You're reporting on this now?
Yeah, I mean, this is a difficult one to sort of talk about, because I think they're trying everything out there to promote the women's game. We have made some huge strides over the last couple of years. I mean, the Women's Challenge Cup finals at Wembley. But there is a big but coming here. There's a massive divide now between the top teams in Super League and the bottom teams in Super League, and it's huge. It's absolutely huge. I'll go through some of the scores for the last couple of weeks. So the Challenge Cup is in 4 groups to start with. Is the Women's Challenge Cup's in 4 groups. It's the idea of getting some Championship clubs playing Super League clubs. But if you look at some of the scores, I mean, the one standout is Cardiff 42, Warrington 14. So Cardiff... in the Northern Championship, they defeated Warrington, so that's a great result. But then the other week you had Huddersfield 0, York 56, massive difference. Wigan 84, Barrow 0. Saints 102, Warrington 0. Sheffield 0, Leeds 104.
Record score.
Absolute just enormous margins. I mean, I know some of these are Super League with Championship, but we're even getting it between with the top teams in Super League and the bottom teams in Super League now. And I don't think it's a positive way to promote the. What's your thoughts? I don't think that's a positive way to promote the sport. I know you need to get the best players playing with other players to help raise the standard, but I think the difference is so vast now. I don't think it's doing any good for anybody.
No, it's a tough place to be, because obviously it needs time to develop the depth of the skill, the skill set of all these players, and it's crazy to think that like you can have a handful of the big one that stands out in my mind, Amy Hardcastle, Caitlin Casey. They just did this exodus to Saints, didn't they?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And others, yeah.
And that just changed the dynamic of a team when a couple of players moved, for whatever reason, and that's just not great for the sport. So I think we've got to go through this stage of like increasing the skill set of these players. But I don't know, it's just a necessary evil, it just doesn't look great, does it?
No.
And it can't be great for the players that are getting 100-0. 100-0.
No,
you know what I mean? They're not even getting points on the board.
Nobody's learning anything. The winning team's not learning anything. The losing side's not learning anything. I mean, do you reduce the Super League down to 4 or 5 teams and have a shorter season, but a shorter, more elite season?
I think you'll lose players to Union then.
Yeah,
I just think who's going to hang around for like a four game league, a 4-team league? They want to be playing. So I don't know. I don't know how you do it. And maybe we can take a little bit. We're going to talk about wheelchair rugby later on, and they had this period, didn't they, where they'd get smashed by France every time. You know what I mean? And then they carried on developing the sport, developing the team, and eventually World Cup winners. How did that come about? Surely we can trace the steps to success. And try and implement that on, I don't know, we're talking about a national side there, but on the women's game, you know what I mean? And I think we can agree, it's just not, I don't know, I don't want to say a great look, because that's not what we're talking about. It's just, I just think about these players that are going out, putting the bodies on the line and getting 100-0'd, by these top teams. They must be devastated, and I don't know if that's very motivating. Can you handicap the other team? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how we get around this, and maybe people do in the comments like, and I know there'll be some people saying, "Oh, are we that bothered right now?" You know what I mean? We're just in this development stage of the women's game, but you can't put them on the top. Vegas.
Yeah,
it happened in Vegas at the international level.
Yeah.
Now it's happening at club level in the Challenge Cup. And we're getting big scores in the Super League as well. So we just need some way of closing that gap, and pretty quick, I would say.
I think you need to reduce the number of teams in the Women's Super League. I know you've said, oh well, you're only going to be playing X amount. Maybe if you made it like a 5-team Super League, you've probably got 4 strong sides and 1 developing side, let's say. Have it over a short part of the season, right in the middle of the summer, make it elite. Try and get the players in, I'd say professional, at least semi-pro, so the training at least half the week, if that's possible. And
what about centralised training camps where you bring the clubs together? Or do you think there's just such a void in it? Like you take Amy Hardcastle, cut her teeth at Siddle, a very well-run, reputable, very traditional club, as opposed to, other people that we know that play the game that just sort of picked it up in university, or, they've come across from the transition from union or some other sport, and the depth of knowledge of the game, perhaps the physical prowess is not there. Would centralised training camps help, like transfer skills, transfer knowledge? I don't know. It's a tough one.
Maybe some of the Super League clubs are linked more closely with the Championship club, so that there's like a development pathway. Maybe that would work. Maybe that'd be a decent idea. But you just have your Wigan, Saints, Leeds. You just have other teams feeding up to them. But I think something needs to happen. I ain't got the answer, but I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Let me just come at this a slightly different way as well. This may be controversial, but let's go for it. So obviously, you know, the women, they get TV coverage, they get media coverage, and rightly so. However, if you're getting like a blowout score, like 100-0, right?
Yeah.
Is that entertaining to watch? Probably not.
No.
Unless you're the team that's like spanking everybody else. Now, you look at the championship, some of the games that's going on in the championship, and even League One, you know, and they're missing out from this TV coverage and this broadcasting coverage because the women's game. It's like, you know, they must be like thinking, well, rather than have 100-0 blowout on the telly, why can't we have like a really competitive championship side and give them a bit of coverage? You know, and it's one of those things, I know there's not enough to go around.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just a real tough situation to be in, and I'm glad I don't have to sort it out.
I mean,
I don't think you can do it without ruffling feathers.
Yeah, I mean, the women's league, the women's Super League, they do only sort of show the top games, don't they? And there ain't many games broadcast, and they tend to be the higher end games, like your playoffs and your finals and things like that. Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't want to be showing a 104 points to 0 result on the TV. And also, I think the championship clubs, I think there was a TV deal on the table for the championship.
Right.
They opted not to take it because they, I believe that the chairman would, for what the TV deal was worth, they would rather get people through the gates watching it live. So, yeah, that argument's a bit lopsided. But yeah, I see what you mean. On to the next story.
we ain't going to sort it out.
No, we're not going to solve that out, mate.
Anyway, those scores definitely stood out. Now, if you're enjoying this content and you'd want more of these videos, then please consider becoming a member of the channel. So just for a couple of quid, you can help develop the content that we kick out. Allow us to do more shows and to bring you more rugby league news, especially as we've got the World Cup running, you know, coming up. We've got the Ashes series next year. Later in the year.
This year, selling like hotcakes.
And, you know, and loads of other stuff as well. So just can hit the join now button. There's a couple of different packages. You get some perks as well. So check it out and help support the channel. Tackle 4, and this is one that I personally can't wait for. Karl, you was tasked with the formidable task of picking a fantasy Ashes England side ahead of the Ashes series this week. You've dived into current performance, who's performing right now. You know, not just the favourites, like some people suggest Sean Wayne maybe picking, and I'm really, really interested in hearing the team that you've come up with.
Well, Craig, there may be some of Sean Wayne's favourites in this side.
Yeah, well, it's about to be, yeah.
Yeah, so I've some of this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek.
Right.
I've picked an England side, which I believe will beat Australia.
Right
now, if we played Australia, I'm pretty certain it would be 3-game series to England.
Right. Well, that's a strong shout. And also, if you're picking individuals, you know, sometimes you got to pick players that can play as part of a team, you know, and have a strategic view of the team. Have you gone for this?
Let's have a look then. Right, so this is the England team I have picked. So at fullback, I've gone Jack Welsby.
Right.
But I originally had Max Jowett in there.
Well, both, we can understand the reason why. Why have you gone with Jack Welsby? Just experience of that level?
I did have Max Jowett as my starting fullback, right? That was the first name I had down on the team sheet. And I started looking at the stats. Yeah. Jack Welsby, he's actually leading. He's like leading assists in the Super League this year. He's like leading meter maker coming out of backfield this year. So I backpedaled a little bit and I went with a bit of more of a safe option with Jack Welsby. He's also scored quite a few tries again this year. So yeah, I was going Max Jowett, but I've gone Jack Welsby. So pretty obvious one, that, isn't it?
I know,
nothing too much of a surprise there.
Yeah, not a surprise. You know, well-blooded England international. Does a lot of stuff that goes unseen, I think, by the neutral fan. Saints fans love him. We know that. Imagine Max Jowett, championship to England international within 12 months. I mean, that'd have been great. And I'm sure he's on Sean Wayne's
I
radar.
100% think he's on the radar. You know who else I contemplated?
For God's sake, contemplate.
Sam Tompkins was even in the mix.
Mate. I know
he's retired from international duty. I know he retired from rugby league, but he is having a great season this year.
I don't know if he's robust enough, but I agree with what you say.
He was in the mix. He was certainly in the mix. Right, Dom Young. He scored 5 tries in 6 games. There's been a bit of a question mark on his defence, certainly in the early rounds of the NRL, but he's so consistent with try scoring. His name cemented in that team sheet for me.
Right, well, there's no surprises yet. I know we're only 2 players but let's keep going.
We'll get there, right? So on the other wing, I've got Matty Ashton.
Right.
Matty Ashton didn't play the last series, did he, for England?
No, he was in the squad, wasn't he?
I think he might have been injured. Right. Matty Ashton, one of the best try scorers in Super League. Makinson's not going to make it anymore. Matty Ashton cemented for me. Right, centres, I've got Herbie Farnworth and Waddle. Do you agree with me so far?
Yeah, both outstanding players. But I thought he was coming up with something controversial here. Like, nothing surprises me here.
Right, halfbacks, right. What were you thinking with halfbacks?
Right, so Mikey Lewis, Harry Smith and George Williams, whatever, combination that Sean Wayne decides. Hit me.
Right, I've gone Mikey Lewis at 9. You'll see.
Okay.
My halfbacks for England, based on form this year, I'd go Bevan French at 6 and Harry Smith at 7.
Bevan French? Is he eligible, is he?
Bevan French is eligible to play for England, mate.
Well, as a Wigan player as well, you could... Are we going to see Bevan French pulling an England shirt?
Yeah.
Do you think we can convince him to switch allegiances?
Well, I did some proper digging here. Like, genuinely, he got to be resident in the UK, in England for 5 years. He ticks that box. He's had a pie from Wigan, so that makes him eligible. And he's probably had a sausage roll from Greg. So he's literally, he can play for England in this Ashes series, 100%.
Right.
And the Aussies will snub him because they believe that only the best players play in the NRL. And they also believe that you have to play state of origin to be eligible for Australia, another bonkers rule that they have. I genuinely believe that Bevan French is one of the best players in the world. I think we have got one of the best players in the world playing in Super League.
There's no denying that.
Well, the Aussies would argue differently, wouldn't they? He's not going to get a chance for Australia. The only chance he's going to get to prove that he's the best player in the world is if he puts on that England shirt.
Well, you're making a real good case. So you've got Bevan French, Harry Smith, no George Williams then?
Well, you could only pick 2. And Harry Smith, I think, George Williams is having a great season, isn't he? Well, he's having a great season.
And he's the England captain. So, what happens there?
But Harry Smith and Bevan French,
they play.
It's tried, tested, play week in, week out. And I reckon Sean Wayne's probably knocking around there somewhere. So, that's my halfback pairing. Right, Mike McMeekin at prop.
Yeah.
Stellar season so far. Second top tackler in Super League this year.
And you can, he plays big minutes, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Big minutes.
He could play 80 minutes if you need him to. He's like a proper, Jamie Peacock.
Yeah.
He's Mike McMeekin.
Yeah.
It's got to be in there. Right, hooker, I've already gone Mikey Lewis. The hooker was one position I wasn't sure on.
No. Hooking is a position where we've never struggled in terms of England.
No, we've always had James Roby. I mean, you can throw Darryl Clark in there, but I'll be honest, I don't think Darryl Clark's having the best season at the minute.
Danny Walker,
possibly. Jez Litton can play at 9.
Oh, but Jez Litton's doing it week in, week out, isn't he?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And then and he's got versatility to play elsewhere as well.
But then you've got the top try scorer in Super League, Mikey Lewis. Do you leave him out of the side because you're playing Bevan French? I'm saying that it's like Bevan French is actually playing for England.
No, but this is the idea of a fantasy team, isn't it? You know what I mean? You got to stake your case.
Well, it's yeah.
I don't know about Mikey Lewis at 9 when you've got someone as strong as Jez Litton and then also Danny Walker.
He did it in the last England series, didn't he? But coming on from the bench. So would you go Danny Walker?
I think I would as a dedicated hooker. You know what I mean? And who's someone who's robust, he's strong, he's physical enough to deal with those Aussie players, the Aussie forwards, and I think he makes great decisions. And when he breaks free from, acting half, he can be devastating at the right time. Now, I'm not saying Michael Lewis can't do that, but I think Michael Lewis can have a little bit of a hot head. He is susceptible to emotion. We know he's an emotional player. He's certainly emotional after games.
Yeah, you need that though.
Yeah, you do, but you can't let that cloud your judgment. And I don't think I'd be picking Michael Lewis ahead of Danny Walker in a hooking position as a pivot or something. Maybe, but I don't know. But this is your team,
right?
And
the other prop I've gone Owen Trout,
mate.
I'm giving him his international debut. I know it's a big game to come in as your debut of Ashes, but he's been so good for Lee. I couldn't leave him out. Just couldn't leave him out. I've put him ahead of some very experienced England forwards there.
No, do you know what? I completely agree. And I think Owen Trout this year is epitomising an England forward. Like he is launching into players like Morley-esque. I'm not saying taking off heads and stuff like that, but just going out to batter people, leaving nothing on the table, and incredible to watch. And I think you're right. Whether he's on the pitch or on the bench,
material,
I'm not sure. But I like the fact that you've included him in the lineup.
We've got to change it up a little bit. We can't keep picking same side every year. Right, I've got Victor Radley and Matty Nicholson in my second row. Matty Nicholson is ripping it up in the NRL. Absolutely ripping up. He's got...
And I can't mention Matty Nicholson without sort of eating humble pie, because I wrote him off going down to the NRL, and he's just scoring for fun, isn't he?
Yeah, he's played five games and he's scored 4 tries. He's an absolute handful. He's found another level. He's definitely found another level. And with me having Victor Radley in the second row, that gives me a loose forward position open. I've gone with Elliot Minchella. What do you think?
What strikes me about Elliot Minchella, and I know he does week in, week out, performs at a very, very high level. Has he got the physical stature? Has he got the menace that Victor Radley brings at loose forward?
I mean, your other option's Liam Farrell.
No, I think Liam Farrell is a little bit aged. I know he's certainly not at...
Morgan Smithies?
Yeah, I think he could do a job at loose forward. What other options we got? I mean, you could have like Victor Radley 13 and then Junior Nsemba in the second row.
Well, yeah, I mean, on my bench I've got, there's a number of players there. I've got Nsemba, Liam Farrell, Max Jowett, Smithies, James McDonnell as well. I've thrown on the bench. I think he's having a cracking season for Leeds.
Yeah, I really, really rate James McDonnell. I love what he does. Yeah.
So there's my controversial England lineup for the Ashes. It's going to win the Ashes this year.
Right, Karl, you've picked your team. You've made your case. Talk to me about tactics and strategies here. How's this series going to play out? How are you, as the head coach of England, going to secure the win for us staunch England fans?
Well, it'd be interesting to see which side Australia bring over first of all, because Australia, I know I've picked Bevan French in my England side, right? However, Australia tend to pick Kiwis, Tongans, Samoans, Cook Islanders. But you know what? A lot of those players are defecting now to their
home nation.
Yeah, to their home nation. So I think Australia are going to be a little bit weaker than they have been in previous years if they have to pick Australians to play for them, right? So I think first game, this is how it'll unfold. England will win the first game.
Yeah.
All right, it's going to be at Wembley. It's going to be packed house. The Aussies, it always takes them a little while to find the feet, right? When they come to the UK, they've always got to find the feet. Jet lag, all the rest of it kicking in, new country. England tend to play very well on the first game. I think we'll win the first game by 10 points.
Right, okay. Player of the match?
I think it'll be one of the forwards. Matty Nicholson.
Right, okay.
Matty Nicholson, 2 tries.
Right. All right.
Right, game 2, Australia will find the feet. England will get blown away in game 2 at Everton. Going into the final match at Headingley, 1 apiece. And at this point, the Aussies will absolutely shit themselves. They don't like playing at Headingley with a packed crowd. It's going to be right on top of them. They're going to face an atmosphere that they've never faced before. They don't even sing songs in Australia. I've witnessed it firsthand, mate. I've been there at Vegas, watched the Aussie crowds. There's just nothing from them. The England fans will be in fine voice. Do you ever remember watching the World Club Challenge between Leeds? Was it Manly that they played?
Well, they have played Manly, yeah. Which game you on about?
I think it was Manly, World Club Challenge. And Like Manly dropped the ball from the kickoff.
This is relatively recent.
Yeah.
I remember they
were all over the place. The atmosphere was an absolute cauldron at Headingley. Mate, you're going to turn that up times 10 this time. Australia won't be able to handle it. They won't be able to handle it. England will win this series.
So the crowd, 18th man for England then.
100%.
So I mean, are you being honest here? Like, you think, like, obviously England have never won an Ashes series, or they haven't won an Ashes series for decades, have they? You know what I mean? In fact, rarely have they actually won a game. We still talk about that game where, was it Great Britain?
We've got,
won the game. You know,
predominantly we've only really won one game out of some of the Ashes, haven't we? But that was a long time ago. But do you know what England never had back then? We always had a pack that would frighten the life out of Australia. We always had a strong pack. We never had the outside backs, and we never had a perfect half-back pairing. I've solved that problem, mate.
Yeah.
I've solved that problem, and that's what I genuinely think we've got a good chance.
There'll be a lot of people they'll be wondering how you can have an England squad without George Williams in there right now.
He's on my bench.
All right, okay. All right.
I'll put it to you like this, right?
This has been the headache for a couple of years, though. Like the half-back pairings, who plays one.
Well, what problem to have?
Yeah,
we've just got quality between Mikey Lewis, George Williams, Harry Smith, and now you've got Bevan French as well. What a headache to have that is.
I know, and it's they're formidable at Wigan. You know what I mean? You've got the consistency and the application of skill from Harry Smith, and then just the radical craziness that Bevan French brings, where he can just break down. I mean, whenever I think of Bevan French, I think about that Matt Peake quote where he said they have this tongue-in-cheek joke where sometimes they just send a message down saying, just tell Bevan French to score already. You know what I mean? And it's like, all right, there you go. It goes and scores a try from nothing. You know what I mean? And to do that for England would be incredible. And how many people do you think would welcome into an England shirt?
Well, I would. International sport it's not just about where you've bloody born, is it, anymore? It's not. It genuinely isn't.
No, but you've got to have an allegiance, wouldn't you? I mean, to be fair, we had Jackson Hastings not too long ago.
Mate, we had Roger Chase playing for us back in, and we welcomed Rangi with open arms, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, and Victor Radley, he's a firm favourite in England, because he brings some steel, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He brings some steel. You know that there's a card imminent. You know what I mean? Because he brings that to the game.
If Bevan French is watching, put your name down, mate.
Put your name forward. Maybe he has. Right, okay.
I was going to go in harder on that and say, I've heard a rumour.
Questions are being asked.
A
source
close to me. Yes.
Right. If you've enjoyed this style of sort of fantasy England team, especially with the Ashes and the World Cup coming up next year, make sure you hit subscribe and hit the like button to let us know that you've enjoyed it, so we can do more of that kind of stuff. And of course, we welcome your comments, good, bad, indifferent, in the comment section down below. What do you think about George Williams being on the bench, Mikey Lewis at hooker, Bevan French featuring in an England side, and the fact that Karl thinks that this is the best opportunity that we've had to win an Ashes series for a long, long time. Tackle 5 now, and wheelchair rugby league saw an unprecedented amount of coverage during the last World Cup in 2022, and actually went on and won the tournament, crowned as World Cup champions. That event cemented names such as James Simpson, Wayne Boardman, Nathan Collins, Seb Bashara, and many, many more as household names. Now, the England head coach Tom Coyd is on the lookout for the next set of stars for wheelchair rugby league, and we checked in with him ahead of their 2025 talent pathway.
Tom, I just wanted to, we'll go back to the start essentially. You've developed a pathway this year, which there's always been a pathway in place for wheelchair rugby league, but this now starts from literally grassroots, and there's a pathway all the way up to international rugby league, if I'm right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think what we've been brilliant at, and I can't take a lot of credit for it because it was happening before I became involved with the England team, was we were brilliant at getting the creme de la creme of the English talent and getting those players together and training the best against the best all the time. And the fruit that bore was, of course, the 2022 World Cup victory, 3 of the last 4 Golden Boots being English players, and the players that still dominate the Super League now keep getting better and better. But something that we recognised last year was that there was a bit of a gap opening up between those players who are established, and then lots of other talented players in the competition who weren't getting the same exposure to best against the best. So we've plugged that gap with some extra programming opportunities, including a national development program which sits underneath our national performance squad, and also the juniors and women's activations. Because of course we call ourselves the most inclusive sport on the planet, so we have to walk the walk by making sure those opportunities are available with the England team, just as they are in the community game.
So, Tom, if you just could paint a picture for anybody that's playing wheelchair rugby league, if you take me through it sort of step by step, how it develops.
I think I've got a great example for you there, because we've got 3 players who are attending the event on Saturday, who are talent transfer athletes. So they're not currently with a wheelchair rugby league club. They're either from wheelchair basketball or from other wheelchair sports.
Right.
And the pathway for them, in our vision, is that they come to an event like the Invitational Festival, and they get a taste for what the best athletes in wheelchair rugby league do, how good the game can be at a high level, and they then get placed with their best nearest wheelchair rugby league club. So at that stage, you obviously start training weekly. You play games, whether it be in the development league, the championship, or the Super League, which is growing. Of course, yeah. Sheffield and Edinburgh have joined the Super League this season, and it will go to 8 teams with Warrington in 2026. And from then on, of course, not only will you be competing on a near weekly basis in season, but there will also be regular checkpoints with the England programme, where, like I said before, we aim to pit the best against the best as often as we can without interfering with the domestic calendar, so that everybody gets to play against their fiercest competitors more often.
I mean, you've got, just sort of looking at it, you've got like an added selection headache, if you like, because you've got to have a certain number of disabled players and able-bodied players. How do you factor that into your selection process?
It's a massive part of our consideration, and it's important to get it right, because I think the whole point of wheelchair rugby league is that you don't see the disability first.
Yeah,
you want to just consider everybody as a person, as a player. But of course, we need to ensure that we've got the right balance of disabled and non-disabled athletes, because it should always be a majority disabled group, because that's the way that the rules stipulate. You have to have 3 out of 5 disabled players on the pitch at any one time. So part of our kind of talent ID process is to understand whether there is or is not disability present. And it's also, a safety and medical thing. We need to be able to understand if anybody has a disability that, we need to be prepared for, just in case of incident or injury or reaction.
Yeah.
So as a well-prepared staff, like I like to think we are, we gather all the information we need. And from a coach's standpoint, that's also really helpful for me to understand what sort of person we have on the programme, because obviously disability will have a big influence on how people live their lives, how they can train, what expectations we can reasonably have. So we try and build a really holistic picture of all the people on the programme, and then obviously put a support package around them as best we can.
I mean, your first event in the talent pathway that we can see from your kind of flow chart is your Invitational Festival 19th of April. So it's happening this weekend at Nottingham. So just talk to me a little bit about the aim of that first event, but also why Nottingham?
So the the Wheelchair Rugby League competition in the UK launched at the start of April, and we're following that up on the 19th of April with the Invitational Festival, which is effectively our first checkpoint on the England talent pathway for 2025. So we will have 28 players from 11 different clubs, including 3 athletes from talent transfer, so from outside of Wheelchair Rugby League currently, majority disabled athletes, and it includes 16 players who were involved in the programme last year, but also 12 players who have never been involved on an England programme before. So obviously that's hugely exciting because, you're kind of blooding new athletes into your talent pool and exposing them, and obviously hoping that they start putting pressure on the long-standing established players. The reason for Nottingham is a few things that it's just ideal for us. First of all, geographically, Wheelchair Rugby League is really successful at being kind of geographically diverse. Certainly in England, we've got a really, really strong contingent of players based in the southeast at London Roosters, and there's also other clubs not in the Super League like Gravesend and Woodlands Warriors, and also Brentwood Eels and Bedford Tigers, all emerging. So we wanted to not just flonk something in Lancashire or Yorkshire like Rugby League can often do.
Good man.
Because
yeah,
I know you guys get that probably even better than I do. The game deserves to thrive on a national level, and Nottingham gives us the opportunity to do that. Definitely, it's also the key practitioners that are working there, the lead decision makers that we are in partnership with, have really bought into what Wheelchair Rugby League is. We've had quite a long-term discussion with them now about what a partnership between the England wheelchair team and what the University of Nottingham can look like, and those discussions are ongoing. But our ambition is that we effectively build like a national centre for Wheelchair Rugby League in England at the Uni of Nottingham. They've got a charter for disability sport that is unrivaled in the UK, and they really believe in what we're doing. So, yeah, our ambition is to build a really, really strong partnership that will last years and years and years, and hopefully put England in the number one spot for forever and ever.
Yeah, Tom, that sounds great news. Really great news if that comes to fruition. Just talking about Super League in general, I mean, our last story that we just spoke about before you came on air, we were talking about the NRL interest in Super League. Now, obviously, Wheelchair Super League is all under the same sort of umbrella. Has there been any conversations with you about possible interest, or have you heard anything?
I can't say that I know of any conversations between NRL regarding Wheelchair Super League.
Yeah.
What I can say is that the NRL is getting more and more directly involved with the running of the Wheelchair Rugby League in Australia.
Right.
So they are going to have a national festival in late October this year, which will include teams from everywhere that Wheelchair Rugby League's played. So all over Queensland and New South Wales, as well as potentially further afield outside of those two key states. And that to me is obviously a sign that they're taking Wheelchair Rugby League increasingly seriously. We've had several meetings with important decision makers who work at the NRL regarding Wheelchair Rugby League.
Yeah.
None of that's concerned with potential NRL buying a stake. It's purely, like England Wheelchair Rugby League playing against Australia.
Yeah.
But it's all good signs, and I want nothing more than the international game of rugby league generally, but of course wheelchair to thrive. We've got to be careful what we wish for, because if they kind of like turn their powerful eye of Sauron onto wheelchair rugby league, we could have an even stronger opposition in years to come. But that's not something I'm scared of. That's what we want.
Yeah, that's all good. Would you welcome a Wheelchair Ashes series this year?
Absolutely, we would. And that's kind of been the centerpiece of our discussions. So obviously, I think the men's England v Australia Ashes series are going to be huge. I know Headingley's sold out already, and the momentum that's going to generate, I think it's going to be close to what we managed to do with the men's, women's and wheelchair World Cup a few years ago, where it felt like, we were front page headline for 2 or 3 weeks, and I can't remember rugby league being like that. So we're really keen to do something similar, and we're hoping we'll be able to announce something really soon.
Tom, we're obviously talking about the pinnacle of wheelchair rugby league right now, but I mean, how do people get involved in like grassroots wheelchair rugby league? And what if someone said to you, you know what, I really fancy giving that a go? How do they go about doing that?
First of all, I would say there's great content all over places like TikTok and probably mostly Instagram at the moment. And a good way to get to know a sport, get to know anything these days, is to get it into your feed. So go and seek out the Wheelchair Rugby League Instagram and Facebook pages. You'll get a feel for the characters in the game, the people who are making waves and doing great things. And then once you get to you're a level of interest where you want to get more formally involved and directly participate, the Rugby League website is really, really good at putting you in touch with your local wheelchair rugby league club. And in my experience, we are a community that is hugely welcoming and very supportive. So whether it's Bedford Tigers, Medway Dragons, Wigan Warriors, at all levels in any corner of the country, even up as far as Edinburgh Giants and Dundee Dragons, including Scotland. If you reach out, you will be welcomed with open arms, because we are a game where anybody is welcome to play. So yeah, get it into your feed, get to know what we're about, and then take the plunge whenever you're ready.
Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, as always. Talk a lot of sense, and I'm really excited to see what happens this year in the Wheelchair Super League and further down in the grassroots levels as well. Look forward to meeting you again this weekend.
Thanks for your time, guys.
And you, mate.
Seeing you soon, and keep up the great work, please.
Cheers, buddy. I'll see you later.
Thanks, Tom. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Right, moving on. Tackle 6 and the Williams Weekly this week. Now, apart from the fact that you've got a bit of explaining to do, Karl, I want to talk about the Good Friday games that's coming up, because they're mouth-watering. So you need to explain why you're wearing your daughter's cap today.
It's not my daughter's cap, you cheeky bastard.
Well, it certainly looks that way. Right, let's get on to the Good Friday fixtures. So obviously there's a couple of games that's happening on Easter Saturday, if that's the thing. Okay, but just looking at the Good Friday, I looked at these fixtures ahead of our prediction video, which, by the way, has already dropped on the channel. So go and check that out if you haven't done already. And we have got some massive games.
Rivals round, yeah. You got to love rivals round, the good old Catalan-Lee rivalry. Yeah. South of France, Lancashire rivalry that's going on. You always got to feel sorry for there's always one game.
There's always one, team. I mean, imagine though, just stepping back slightly, you have Catalan and Toulouse in the European Super League, and that becomes a rival game.
Yeah.
I mean, that is going to be...
How good would that be?
Oh, you might as well just turn it into UFC. You know what I mean? Because they're just going to be fighting all over the place, isn't they?
Yeah, get Carcassonne in there as well.
Yeah.
Triple threat match. Yeah, there's some quality games here in there. I mean, this is the week we always look forward to it in Super League. And do you know what I like now? They've took all the bloody rivalries out of Magic Weekend, because it got to the point where we were watching the same rivalries 3, sometimes 4 times a season, and it was too much.
Well, we've just had a Hull derby, haven't we?
Yeah,
we've just had a couple of derbies.
But that was the Challenge Cup one. Yeah. That was just a freak draw. But yeah, which one of these are you most looking forward to?
I think the one that, until this weekend rather, it's just passed, I would have said the Wigan Saints game. However, with Wigan beating Hull KR, I think Hull KR would have taken a bit of a battering. They're not used to losing this year, right? And that's wide open for Hull FC, who are feathers in the air, hightailing it, and performing really, really well. That makes it a really exciting fixture for me, and that's the one that I and we've got a little bit of a.
But they bottled it a bit, didn't they? Well, they did bottle it in the Challenge Cup. Hull KR run away with that fixture. But yeah, I wasn't expecting the FC win this week over Warrington. That one stood out a little bit to me. So yeah, maybe they've learnt a few lessons and they've got their big game heads back on, and yeah, it promises to be a good one, doesn't it? I mean, yeah, should be. Well, we know what the atmosphere is going to be like if it's anything like the Challenge Cup. I just hope the fixture lives up to the hype on the field this time, because it just didn't in the Challenge Cup. It just missed by a long shot.
Yeah, what about you then? So obviously you've got...
Do you know which one that really intrigues me, which I'm looking forward to watching? The Trinity Tigers game. Because I think Cass fans are going to blow up this weekend. You know what I can see happening? I can see Wakefield winning quite comfortably. And there's already a load of unrest amongst the Castleford fans. They want new signings being brought in. They're calling for Danny Maguire's head again, which is just nuts if you ask me. He can only do so much with the team he's been given. I think you're going to see a Wakefield win, and I think you're going to see Castleford fans lose their shit this weekend.
Yeah, so the reaction to the game makes for an interesting...
Yeah, definitely. The Wigan Saints, we know what we're going to get. We're going to get a high class, high energy game. There won't be much movement in it. There won't be many points in it. The atmosphere will be an absolute cauldron. We've witnessed it last year. It's a cracking game. I just love this weekend of rugby league. I just love it. I'm going to get me some beers. I'm going to sit on the sofa. I'm not going to do any of them. I'm just going to sit and enjoy as much rugby as I can this week.
Well, going back to Hull KR, I mean, they're without Micah Lewis, as far as I'm aware, and potentially a couple of other starting players as well. So I don't know. It's just interesting. It's one of these things where it's just hard to call. And I know we had a comment last week. So we had a comment, recently where we say, in what universe the Hull FC beat Hull KR? They've played them once already. I know it was a bit of a runaway score for Hull KR. But, Hull FC, they're just firing for me at the minute. And this could be their week. It really could.
I think Hull KR let themselves down a little bit at the weekend. They want that. They're in that Warrington danger zone at the minute, aren't they? It's like, we can be up there.
Nearly men.
Yeah, we can be up there all season.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to that big game against Wigan, or... we just don't quite get it right. But having said that, I think they'll have enough to get over FC this weekend, based on the last fixture.
Another thing that makes this exciting is that those games that we're talking about, with the exception of Trinity and Cass, top 4 teams in the table. So you've currently got Hull KR at the top, Hull FC second, then Wigan, then Saints. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And those top 4 teams are all playing this Good Friday.
Yes, it's just mouth-watering, isn't it? And then you've got Rhinos and Giants.
What are you saying about that?
I really struggle to watch Huddersfield at the minute.
Yeah,
I watched them against Catalan on Sunday. The stadium's empty. It just feels like they're on life support at the minute. Be an easy win for Leeds. Anyway, we shouldn't be giving away our predictions, because you've got to watch our prediction show for them.
Right, Karl, talking
last question. No, last one. In your opinion, we've done this before, which is the biggest rivalry in Super League?
Right now,
I
think you've got to give it to the Hull derby. And the reason being, because you can argue, like, for years, and there's been a switch. Let me explain.
20,000 Wigan fans in comments right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. However, I'm sure those Wigan fans would suggest that Saints are no longer, that they're not the side they have been in the past. They used to be the top 2 teams for a long time, right? They did.
Yeah.
And that made for real massive rivalries and a huge derby. Now, you look at, like, Hull KR, they're in the up and down championship for a long time. You know what I mean? They just weren't the level that they are right now for a long time. But they're both, first, second in the table right now. You know what I mean? They're building, and one thing's for sure, they are fierce. They are fierce over there. We talked about like, what would you do if you merged the two Hull teams? You know what I mean? And they can't even put them in the same stand. They're limiting ticket sales so that to reduce the amount of bottles getting thrown around and stuff like that. Like it's and that atmosphere. It just makes an incredible derby, doesn't it? So I'm going to give it to Hull FC, Hull KR as the number one rivalry. You?
Right now, I'll agree with you on that
Yeah.
one. You made a good point there, mate. You made a good point.
Right, okay. Karl, just fill us in then. What is coming up over the next 6 to 7 days?
We've got our predictions video online. We've got a podcast episode with Birmingham Bulldogs. If you don't know about Birmingham Bulldogs, local side here in the Midlands, they had some shenanigans, shall we say, go on the other year with an owner, and they've had to sort of rebuild themselves. They've rebranded themselves. They're getting back on top. So that's a real insightful interview with Birmingham Bulldogs, Sean Flynn. We got our visit to Lee Leopards from the outside in, where we took in the matchday experience at Lee Leopards. One of us got fully involved in it. One of us didn't.
So until the next video, take care.